Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Allie's Book Nook. My name is Allison and today I'm going to share with you all of the books that I read for June 2025, which is 8 books. So let's dive in. Before I start, I want to share with you this cute little book tote bag I got. It says, "I only have my shelf to blame," and I got that at Target. Okay, so like I said, I got through 8 books. I don't think I actually had any 5 stars, but I had some that came pretty close. So the first book I have is my second Blake Crouch book, and it is called Recursion. This might have been my favorite book of the month. So this is a hardback. I also read it in audiobook through Libby. So again, this is by Blake Crouch, published by Ballantine Books, and it's a sci-fi thriller published in 2019. It was 329 pages or 11 hours in audio. I paid $1 for the hardback at a yard sale, and then I listened to it free through Libby through my library. I started it on May 30th and I ended it on 6/1, so only a couple days to read this. So let me read you the synopsis here. It says, "Memory makes reality. That's what New York City cop Barry Sutton is learning as he investigates a devastating phenomenon the media has dubbed false memory syndrome, a mysterious affliction that drives its victims mad with memories of a life they never lived. That's what neuroscientist Helena Smith believes. It's why she has dedicated her life to creating a technology that will let us preserve our most precious memories. If she succeeds, anyone will be able to re-experience a first kiss, the birth of a child, the final moment with a dying parent. As Barry searches for truth, he comes face to face with an opponent more terrifying than any disease, a force that attacks not just our minds, but the very fabric of the past. And as its effects begin to unmake the world as we know it, only he and Helena working together will stand a chance at defeating it. But how can they make a stand when reality itself is shifting and crumbling all around them? At once a relentless page-turner and an intricate science fiction puzzle box about time, identity, and memory, Recursion is a thriller that only Blake Crouch could imagine it, and his most ambitious and mind-boggling, irresistible work to date." So yeah, I really enjoyed this. In May, I read my first Blake Crouch book, which was Dark Matter, and I got all fired up for Blake Crouch, and this one did not disappoint. This one was written after Dark Matter, I'm pretty sure. And every time I try to film, my pets come up and bump the camera, so let's see if she'll settle down here. Yeah, this was a really good book. Somewhat similar to Dark Matter, but not really. It was sci-fi thriller, but it was not really heavy science. You didn't have to know a lot of have a lot of scientific background to enjoy this and understand it. And I really like the way his characters are relatable. I found that in Dark Matter as well as this book. The characters were just really likable, relatable people, and you're able to connect to them. And yeah, I really like this. So I am excited to read more Blake Crouch. I think I want to read like all of his books, but I think my next Blake Crouch endeavor will be the Wayward Pines trilogy. I've heard really good things about that. So I would highly recommend this one. Let's see what I said as far as my notes on this one. I said it was really good, fast-paced. It dealt with multiple timelines or universes. That's kind of similar to Dark Matter. Had a little bit of a dystopian element to it. And it was a little more technical than Dark Matter, but also somewhat stronger character development. There you go. I like Dark Matter slightly better. I think I gave Dark Matter a 5-star overall, and this was 4.5 stars overall. Like I said, I want to read all his books. And I've heard that Wayward Pines has more of a dystopian element to it, so I'm looking forward to that. So, my additional notes, it had some references and settings in the Denver area where the author lives. So, I said already a 4.5-star overall rating. Characters, 4.25. Plot, 4.75. Readability, 4.5. And overall rating, 4.5. So, yes, I would recommend that book for sure. Okay, so the next book, totally different genre. This is from the Bridgerton series. It's the third book in the series, and this is An Offer from a Gentleman, and it's Benedict's story. So I read this in paperback and also audiobook. I actually got the whole, I think, 8-book original Bridgerton series for Christmas, so I'm working through those as they come up in my Libby holds for audiobooks. But this is written by Julia Quinn. It's published by Avon Books, and I think they publish primarily romance genre. This was a historical romance published in 2001, so it is an older book. 449 pages or 12 hours on audio. I paid $30 for the set of 8 books on Facebook Marketplace, and then, of course, free through Libby to listen to. I started this on 6/2 and I finished it on 6/6, so a little under a week. So this the Bridgerton books, they all go through stories of different members of the Bridgerton family, and it's like their love stories. This one was my favorite by far. This one, so let me just tell you my review here. It was my favorite Bridgerton book so far. It had a very Cinderella-esque theme, and I really loved that Cinderella theme, the kind of rags to riches trope. Cinderella was my favorite fairy tale growing up, favorite Disney movie, and so I really enjoyed that through an adult lens. There were definitely some differences from the first 2 books that I read. The first one I noticed was they did not use the term rake in this book, and that term is used very heavily in the first 2 books, so I thought that was kind of funny. And then the other part that differed, I'm not going to say because that would be a spoiler. The tension curve was pretty low. So additional notes, it was a book that was easy to read while I was multitasking, or easy to listen to while I was multitasking, so I did enjoy that. That made it go quick. Overall, okay, so characters, 3.5 stars, plot 3.5, readability 3.5, and overall rating 3.5. So 3.5 across the board. So that was the best Bridgerton book. Hopefully they continue on an upward trend. Okay, this might have been my favorite book actually of the month. And that is The Desolation of Devil's Acre by Ransom Riggs. It's the final book in the Miss Peregrine series, and so bittersweet to finish the series because it was such a solid series the whole way through. Really love this series. It's young adult, but it is so good, and I don't hear people talk about it really, but yeah, I love this series. So kind of bittersweet to see it end. This was probably the biggest book in the series. So 6th and final novel in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. Hardcover, I got this brand new hardcover because out of the 6 books, the first one I have is paperback and the rest are all hardback. And actually you can kind of see him up here next to one of this companion book of his. But this was, again, written by Ransom Riggs, published by Dutton. It's a young adult fantasy/horror book published in 2021. 503 pages and 15 hours on audio. So it is a little bit longer of a book. I paid $15.41 for this new, and then again, like I do with all my audiobooks, it was free through Libby. So I started this on June 4th and I finished it on June 12th because, yeah, it is a bigger book. Okay, I don't edit my videos. My dog's coming around. If she's gonna jump up here, we may have to adjust here. But This is the last book in the series. My book review, I'm not going to read you the synopsis because it has spoilers in it if you haven't read the other books. But I enjoyed it, but I wish it had a little bit more world building, which I guess you're in the last book, you know, maybe the author didn't feel a need for that, but I wish it had more of that and less action. But I do understand the need for the action because it was kind of a final battle of the series, you know, a final battle of good versus evil. And so I did like the ending a lot. And I can't say what the ending was, but I really liked it. I felt like it was appropriate. I got the closure that I wanted, and I really liked how it ended. It was a solid series all the way through. I gave the whole series overall 4.75 stars. All 6 books took place in a period over about a year or less. So that was kind of unusual, and I actually really like that. Very detailed, kind of real-time situation. I want to read the last companion book. That's the only one I haven't read, but it's not really, it's more of like an encyclopedia of the characters from Peculiardom. So I gave this 4.5 stars for character, plot, readability, and overall. So, okay. So I guess I gave this book a 4.5 star, but the series 4.75. And the only reason it wasn't a solid 5 was, like I said, some of the stuff got a little drawn out with the action-y kind of stuff. That's not really my deal, but I understand the need for it. And yeah, such a great series. Highly recommend this series. The whole Peculiar series, really solid. So I was sad to end that, but I may revisit it again. I've read the first couple books a few times. So the next book I have is called Idaho, and I actually will read you the synopsis on this, but I read this in paperback and audiobook, written by Emily Ruskovich, Random House publisher. This was literary fiction. I think I read somewhere, maybe on Fable, that it was considered thriller or mystery or suspense, but I would disagree with that. It was published in 2017, 322 pages or 11 hours on audio. And I got this, as you can see, for $3 used, and again, free audio. Started on 6/6, ended on 6/15. So it says, a stunning debut novel about love and forgiveness, the violence of memory, and the equal violence of its loss. Anna and Wade have carved out a life for themselves from a rugged landscape in northern Idaho, where they are bound together by more than love. With her husband's memory fading, Anna attempts to piece together the truth of what happened to Wade's first wife, Jenny, and to their daughters. In a story told from multiple perspectives, including Anne, Wade, and Jenny, now in prison, we gradually learn from the mysterious and shocking action that fractured Wade and Jenny's lives, of the love and compassion that brought Anne and Wade together, and the memories that reverberate through the lives of every character in Idaho. One thing I don't think I have in my notes here, but I did appreciate about it is it wasn't really vulgar or didn't have a lot of like curse words or sexual stuff. And so I actually listened to a lot of this audiobook on a little road trip that I took with my girls on my car audio. It was like 3 hours each way, so probably like about 6 hours of this I listened to on our road trip. They were doing other stuff, but I'm sure they kind of heard it in the background, and I didn't worry about it because it wasn't really inappropriate. It wasn't, you know, their content level, but it wasn't inappropriate. So I said that it was a well-written prose, but the storyline did not hold my interest. It had very vivid, detailed language, but the story became drawn out. You find out the premise early on, but never find out why this thing in the book happened. You know it happened, but you don't know why. There was something in there that maybe alluded to a possible reasoning, but that made no sense to me. It seemed really, really far-fetched. So this was the author's debut novel. The author is from northern Idaho, and the tension curve in here was pretty low. I said I probably would not recommend this one. So my additional notes, I would have liked better pacing. Could have ended the book at 70%. It was 30% longer than it needed to be. I did like the details of northwestern Idaho, and I did recognize some of the town names. So that was kind of fun, just from traveling in the area and being somewhat close geographically to the area. So that was kind of fun. But I gave this a 2.75 star overall, just because it was very well written with the language and stuff, but not really what I was looking for. Characters, 3.5. So that actually rated quite a bit higher. Plot, story, 2.5. Readability, 2.75. And then again, overall, 2.75. Maybe if you were directly, there goes my cat, from northern Idaho, you might appreciate it. Even like the reference to the flowers on here, but yeah, I don't think I would recommend that. These other ones I talked about, I would recommend all of them with the exception of maybe Bridgerton, you know, if you're into the Bridgerton series. Which those ones I like because they can be read as standalones too. You don't have to remember necessarily what happened in all the previous books. They reference them, but you can read them several months apart and be fine, even if you have a bad memory like me. Okay, this next book might have been my worst read of the month. Maybe. I had a couple. I have one that was pretty close tie. Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. And I know she has a more recent book. Is it All the Pretty Girls? No. It's like about the victims of Ted Bundy, I think. And that one has gotten a lot of hype like in the last year or so. So I don't know. Maybe I would give her a chance with that, but I didn't like this book very well. So this is paperback audiobook. It's a thriller published in 2015. 352 pages. I didn't write down how long it was in audio, but probably like 8 hours or so. Paid $2.50 for this at Goodwill. Again, free through Libby Audio. Started it on 6/16 and ended on 6/20, so it did only take me a few days. Let me read you the synopsis. Her perfect life is a perfect lie. As a teenager at the prestigious Bradley School, Ani Finelli entered a shocking public humiliation. I know that word, okay? It's really late here. That left her desperate to reinvent herself. Now, with a glamorous job, expensive wardrobe, and handsome blue blood fiance, she is this close to living the perfect life she's worked so hard to achieve. But Ani has a secret. There's something else buried in her past, something painful and private that threatens to bubble to the surface and ruin everything. With a singular voice and twists you won't see coming, Luckiest Girl Alive introduces a heroine whose cutthroat ambition has protected a scandalous truth and a heart that's much bigger than it appears. The question remains, will breaking her silence destroy all that she has worked for, or will it at long last set Ani free? Even her name, Ani, in here, like, annoyed me. But, so my notes on this. First impression was that the female main character, Ani, was not very likable. She was flawed, self-centered. I didn't find the book to be very gripping. There were no big plot twists, and it had a pretty predictable ending. It does have some triggers in it. I don't want to say them. I have them written down. I don't want to say them because it might give away the story, and I try not to do that in my videos. But if you're worried about that and you want to read this, look up the trigger warnings before you read it. Actually, there were several, and I said I wouldn't recommend this. And the tension curve was pretty flat. I will donate this or unhaul it. Probably in a little free library. Same with Idaho. I'm not gonna hold on to that one either. So I gave this a 2.5 for character, plot, readability 2.75, and overall 2.75. Looking back, I feel like that was it was probably 2.5 at best. And that's being generous. So I don't know. when I finished reading it, I guess I liked it more than I do now looking back. But I just, yeah, it really did not hit home for me. It's funny because I read just a little bit of like the Q&A in the back, and she said that she was at a signing and some lady came up to her and said, "Oh, I have 2 girls in my house and this is required reading for my girls in my house." And I'm just like, are you kidding me? This is required reading when you have so many other books that are just so much more empowering for women and young female young women in this culture, and this is what you want your kids to be required reading. I don't know, to each their own. I didn't, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we have 3 more books here to talk about. The next one is called, it's a science fiction book called The 3-Body Problem. And I only read this in paperback. And this was written by, I don't think I'm gonna say the name right, Sin Liu, and translated by Ken Liu. Published by Tor. So this is, the genre is sci-fi / hard sci-fi. Like, this got pretty heavy in parts. It was published in 2006, 416 pages, and this is actually not my copy. This was borrowed by a neighbor and friend of mine who I was telling her about Blake Crouch, and when I was all hyped up about him, and she's like, "Hey, have you ever read this book?" And she was telling me, you know, it's really good and stuff, and it was good. But like I said, it was a little heavy, and she is a great person, but she's actually also like literally a scientist. So she's super smart, and you know, she knows a lot more than I do, has a lot better grasp on the scientific world than I do. My knowledge is very limited, even though I love sci-fi. So, but it's when someone recommends a book to you that they enjoy, or that, you know, has stuck with them, means a lot to them, that's like they're showing you a piece of themselves, and it's really kind of a special thing. Even if you don't completely resonate with the book, it's really a special thing. So anyway, let me read you the synopsis, if there is one on here, or is it just, okay, there's a short one, and then the back is all praises for it. But it says, set against the backdrop of China's Cultural Revolution, a secret military project sends signals into space in an attempt to make contact with aliens, and they succeed. An alien civilization on the brink of destruction captures the signal and plans to invade Earth. Now, on Earth, different camps start forming, planning to either welcome the superior beings and help them take over a world seen as corrupt, or to fight against invasion. The result is a science fiction masterpiece of enormous scope and vision. So, yeah, it's a plot about an alien encounter. One thing that's really interesting is that this book, so it was originally written in Chinese and then translated, but the thing that I thought was really interesting and telling about this book is that it was published in 2006, but it won the Hugo Award, which is very, you know, prestigious in sci-fi literature, but not till 2015. So, you know, 9 years later, it won the Hugo Award. I mean, that's pretty telling. So I said it was an interesting plot, but it did get a little heavy on the science, especially towards the end. There was like a chapter where it took me like 3 days to get through that chapter, even though they're shorter chapters, just because I was like, oh my gosh, my mind is just like talking about different dimensions and different breakdowns of protons and neutrons, and it was like, I appreciated it, but that got a little heavy. But for the most part, it was still pretty readable, even for a layman like me. So, so this is actually the first of a trilogy. I think there's 3, maybe 4, but I'm pretty sure there's 3. Will I read the other ones? Maybe. I do have them in my holds with Libby, but they look like they're a lot bigger, and it's a pretty long hold. But I think I'd maybe be open to it, because it was really interesting. It was a different perspective. on your typical alien encounter plot. But so basically, there's 3 stars orbiting an alien planet, and that kind of draws the title, the 3-body problem. Which I guess I read this on Fable. The 3-body problem refers to something like a known term in orbital mechanics. So, I gave this a 4-star rating overall, 3.5 for characters, 4 for plot, 3.5 for readability, and yeah, overall 4. So, like I said, sometimes it got a little heavy on the science, and also maybe, you know, just with the translations, maybe a little was lost in translation, but the translator had some really great footnotes that explained certain Chinese cultural references. So that was pretty cool. And it made me want to read a little bit more about like the Chinese Cultural Revolution. So, you know, China has a very interesting history. I read a book earlier, was it this year, I think, about, no, I guess it was last year, fictional book about Pearl S. Buck's friend, and that was really interesting to learn about that history. So, I need to read The Good Earth still. That's on my TBR. Anyway, yeah, this was good. I would recommend it. It's probably not for everyone. It's not a popcorn read. It's not something that you can just like, you know, like I said, Bridgerton was easy to multitask with. This is not that fluff. This is like pretty deep, but yeah, it was good. Took me a while to read it, with it only being the paper copy. And that was the only book this month that I only read paper and didn't listen to on audio. So the next book we have is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. Gillian, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. But I did this in paperback and audiobook. And so this was published by Broadway Books / Random House. It's a thriller published in 2006. It's actually her debut novel. She's most famous for Gone Girl, which, you know, that rocked the thriller world for a decade. But this was her first novel. I paid $2.50 for this at Goodwill, and then again free through audio Libby. So I started it on 6/22 and ended it on 6/24. It only took me a couple days to get through this. Let me read you the synopsis. Stephen King gave it some praise here. But anyway, fresh from a brief stay at a psych hospital, reporter Camille Preaker faces a troubling assignment. She must return to her tiny hometown to cover the murders of 2 preteen girls. For years, Camille has hardly spoken to her neurotic, hypochondriac mother or to the half-sister she barely knows, a beautiful 13-year-old with an eerie grip on the town. Now installed in her old bedroom in her family's Victorian-style mansion, Camille finds herself identifying with the young victims a bit too strongly. Dogged by her own demons, she must unravel the psychological puzzle of her own past if she wants to get the story and survive the homecoming. I disliked this for a lot of the same reasons I disliked The Luckiest Girl Alive. I could not relate to the female main character. She just wasn't likable. So I said I didn't enjoy this. It was drawn out. All the characters in here were unlikable, except maybe there was like a cop that seemed okay, but he was not a main character. It was what does it say? It was overdone with the mature content. I think maybe she was trying, I don't know. This came out in 2006. I don't know what she was trying to prove, but it just came off cringy to me. All that mature content was just so, it wasn't tactful at all. And that stuff doesn't bother me necessarily, but the way she wrote it was just choppy. It just, yeah. So there's a lot of trigger warnings in here. Again, I feel like telling you them would give away the book, so you can look those up on your own if you want. I would say it was not very thrilling. It was predictable. I am going to unhaul or donate this. And then I listened to this coming off of listening to Luckiest Girl Alive, and I had a similar distaste for both. So very low tension curve till the end, and then it went up just a little bit. Additional notes. Debut novel for the author. It was about 20 years ago. But Gone Girl was much better. I haven't read Gone Girl. I read it once, and it was probably like 2013 or so, and that was a lot better because of the huge plot twist and halfway through and all that. Just, and that character, female main character, wasn't likable either, but maybe I wouldn't like that book as much now, but I feel like her writing improved a lot from this book to Gone Girl. She has another one, I think it's called Dark something. Does it say on here? Dark Places. I might read that. I don't know. So I gave this a 2.75 overall because of the ending. That's the only reason it got bumped up from a 2.5. But my characters, 2.0. Plot, 2.5. Readability, 2.5. And then again, overall, 2.75. I don't really think I'd recommend this. There's so many better thrillers or like mystery, detective. It's not even really detective. There's so many better books out there within this genre. Sorry, I know that was her first book. Maybe I should cut her a little more slack. But this next book I'm going to talk about was a debut novel from an author, and this was a lot better. So this is my last book of the month here. So we're almost done, and this is Baby Teeth. And this was written by, I'm not sure how you say her name, Zoje Stage. I read this in paperback and also audiobook. It's written or published by St. Martin's Griffin. It's a horror / thriller, I guess. I thought it was a thriller when I started reading it, but it is actually considered horror. Published in 2018, 304 pages and 11 hours on audio. As you can see, I paid $3.99 for this used, and then again free through Libby to listen to. $6.25 to $6.30, so it took me 5 days with this book. Let me read you the premise. So it's told in alternating perspectives, or alternating views, I guess, of the mother and the daughter. Every other chapter, it doesn't deviate. Mother's chapter, daughter's chapter, mother's chapter, daughter's chapter. Hannah's a daughter, Suzette's a mother. So it says, meet Hannah. 7-year-old Hannah is a sweet but silent angel in the eyes of her adoring father, Alex. He's the only person who understands her, but her mother, Suzette, stands in her way, and she'll try any trick she can to get rid of her, ideally for good. Hannah, to get rid of her mother. Meet Suzette. Suzette loves her daughter, but after years of expulsions and strained homeschooling... Nope, you hear my cat? Hopefully he'll be still now. Strained homeschooling. Her precarious health and sanity are weakening day by day. She's also becoming increasingly frightened by Hannah's little games, while her husband, Alex, remains blind to the failing family dynamics. Soon, Suzette starts to fear that maybe their supposedly innocent baby girl may have a truly sinister agenda. I'm just going to take you guys. Oh, sorry, Milo. That might get him out of here. My pile of books just fell on him. But he was like rubbing up on my tripod here. So, I said it was good, but I still don't know what's really going on in the end of it. And I can't say this part without giving it away, but it's like, is this going on or not? I kind of think maybe it was. But I think there's paranormal aspects to it. Some reviews online, people said no. I kind of think there was. The end was a little anticlimactic, and some of the reviews reflected that too. It just felt like I wanted more. I wanted more. I don't know what I wanted, but I wanted something more. I liked how every other chapter was Suzanne and Hannah's perspective. So here's my additional notes. It was a Bram Stoker Award nominee. There is a sequel called Dear Hannah. I don't know if I'm going to read that. I've heard it's not as good. And the daughter is unhinged. She's totally unhinged. So I gave this 4 stars across the board. Character, plot, story, readability, and overall rating. So it was good. I haven't read a horror book in a while. I think the last one I read was Nas 4A2 earlier this year. But yeah, it was a good book to wrap up the month, especially after a couple not so great books. So that's what I got through for June, 8 books. Pretty good. I have been reading a lot more books the last couple months than I have in the past. My goal this year is 60 books, and I am at 37, I think. 36 or 37. So I'm on track to finish. I was actually thinking of doing a video of like a screen share of the books I read and just a quick rapid fire yes, no, maybe, if I would recommend them. So if you guys are interested in that and seeing yes, no, maybe for the first half of the year, the books I read, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts are, or if you're looking to read any of these books, and what you've been reading and enjoying in general. July, I'm going to go for 8 again. I didn't think I could do it. I think the reason I did 10 in May, I figured out, was because kids' t-ball practice, softball practice and stuff, I would sit there and listen to my audio, but I didn't have that this month, and I still feel pretty proud of myself. So I'm hoping to rock it again in July, and I'm currently reading a Noelle Iliey book. I'm not sure how you say your last name. The author of Go Ask for Andrea, Gray After Dark. I just started that today, but I think it's going to be pretty good. So I also want to read another Ronald Malfi book, Night Parade, and I have some other books in my never-ending TBR. So watch for that video. I'm also going to post a video of all the books that I acquired in June, which, spoiler alert, it was a lot again. So again, thank you so much for joining me. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel or giving this video a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.